welcome to another episode of Visual Learner. I'm Harland, and this is my podcast. Don't be fooled by any imitators. How's everybody doing? It's been a minute since I've done one of these. I feel like every 2 weeks is probably what everybody should expect from me putting these out. Either way, I appreciate you for tuning in and hearing what I have to say. I haven't made anything or posted a podcast or put out another video because, frankly, the world sucks. And it's a unique kind of terrible right now. And like a lot of people, I have been just kind of processing what I'm seeing every day from across the country, but specifically Minneapolis. And I think most of this episode is going to be me kind of talking about some of this stuff. But before I get into all that, we'll start with some lighter fare, start with some personal updates, things that are going on in my life that are also kind of contributing, I think, a little bit to my demotivation. One of those being, this might be TMI to put on the internet, but I went and got a strange growth. Not strange. It's probably nothing. But I had something removed from my skin, and now I have a big hole in my back that I've been dealing with. They did a biopsy on a seborrheic keratosis that I had. It's probably, like I said, it's probably nothing. But I do have a wound, a curettage, as I have learned it's called, that is in some lab somewhere right now, being tested for cancer. So, 98% probably fine, right? But that 2%, since I got this taken care of last week, is just rattling around in your brain. That's not a great place to be. Sort of just hanging out back there. The idea that maybe I'll get test results back that are like, hey, you have cancer. So with that on top of everything else, not really been super inspired to make content. Seems pretty trivial to write a silly video script or sit on here and do something that is as self-indulgent as making a podcast where I expect or hope people will tune in and watch. It's a little bizarre. So that's what's going on with me. I also started therapy, probably like 3 weeks ago now. And so I'm doing that every week, on top of changing a bandage that hurts right now, actually. It just, a little twinge. Doing that as well, which it's CBT, it's cognitive behavioral therapy. And I don't know how I feel about it, if I'm being honest, guy. The idea, obviously, of therapy is good and necessary. I just don't know if cognitive behavioral is maybe for me. I need to ask my therapist about that, because I think what I've learned so far in these 3 sessions that we've done is I need someone to tell me exactly how I'm fucked up based on the things that we're talking about. I need someone to be like, yeah, this is... You've got detachment issue or attachment issue or mommy issues or whatever the more technical terms are. Right now, it feels like a lot of me talking, kind of directionless, and them going, that's interesting. So I don't know. A friend of mine or a coworker of mine said that they do dialectical behavioral therapy. And I'm curious if, I think my computer is listening to me because that auto-filled way too quickly to dialectical behavioral therapy. Because I don't know. I don't know that I'm getting much out of this right now. And I know it's only 3 sessions. I'm sure some of you are like, what are you talking about? You've done 3 hours with this person. But I don't know. I'm not talking to them any differently than I would like friends or you right now. Honestly, this is a form of therapy, I think, for me. Talking to an audience that will watch this in 24 to 48 hours from now and tell me whether or not I am stupid for thinking that, or whether or not I am whether or not it's cucked behavior. I guess back to my other point, this serves a dual function, right? It's not just a purely self-serving thing for me to satiate my narcissism. It's good for me to just like talk, right? This isn't that much different than a journal or a diary, right? I'm just noticing my camera is crooked right now, so that's pretty cool. I can't touch it because it'll fuck it up in post if I do that now. Getting way off topic. But one of the reasons I started doing therapy was because I don't sleep very well many nights throughout the week. I'll sleep for like 5 or 6 hours and then wake up out of a dead sleep and just be up and not be able to go back because the wheels just turn and turn and turn. So I'm pretty sure I have some kind of anxiety. I just don't know if this therapy is right for me. So that's like a frustrating thing going on. Anybody else relate? Anybody else have health insurance like I do? Probably not. God, it's crazy that even having health insurance is like not really a relatable thing. God, this place is so fucked up, dude. It's so annoying. All right, what is dialectical behavioral therapy? So dialectical behavioral therapy is a type of talk therapy evolving from cognitive behavioral therapy that teaches skills to manage intense emotions, improve relationships, and reduce self-destructive behaviors. So this is the thing too. I don't really have many self-destructive behaviors. I used to be a big alcoholic, used to abuse all sorts of substances, as we call it in the biz. And I don't do that anymore. I think my relationships are also pretty decent. Everybody could probably see their friends more, but I talk to my dad multiple times a week. I see my friends, once or twice a week, maybe, depending on the holidays, not as much. But I think I've just been able to figure out through common sense a little bit, I think, how to manage some of my emotions. I'm pretty level, unlike my camera right now at this point in my life. I have a decent job. Like I said, I have health insurance. I have a lot of free time. I'm not overworked. I don't bring work home with me. I don't really have an outlet outside of like this. So that's probably a thing. But everything costs money. If you want to do anything outside of your house, you're going to spend money, man. And I'm still like having to buy furniture to fill my apartment with. I just bought a side table to put right there because I realized I don't have anywhere next to my couch to set shit. This is straight up like, not to like get too into like the therapy thing, but this is straight up like what my therapy sessions have been like. Just pinging off of different ideas that I think are somehow related, but I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. So that's what's going on in my life. What else is going on? Oh, I don't know. ICE murdering people. Which like there's so many things. So many thoughts I have about this that I just don't know where to kind of start. I mean, last week, I mean, it's been 11 days now, actually. I'm recording this on January 18th. So on January 7th, ICE murdered a woman. And if anybody watching this is going, go away immediately, unsubscribe, fuck off. And it's murder. It was murder. That's all it is. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, even if you could make the argument that she was fucking, I don't know, trying to run him over. I mean, even giving hypotheticals in this situation feels a little disingenuous and maybe disrespectful. But like, even if there was a valid argument that she was breaking some kind of law, whatever law it was, sorry, capital punishment is not the correct response regardless, right? You don't get to end someone's life like that under most circumstances. And I know, like, oh, but the law says in some states you can fucking shoot people that are using their car as a weapon. Okay. That's a bad law then. It's like, laws are made up by the ruling class that benefit their ownership and their status as an owning class. At the end, there are some laws that do good, sure, but laws don't mean shit unless someone is there to enforce them. And enforcement in general is a murky place to be in this day and age, because again, we see it happening right now where laws are passed that other individuals based on the color of their skin. And even now, just the way that they talk, right? How many times have we seen fucking Chuck Schumer be like, that thing that Trump did or that thing that Kristi Noem did, it's actually against the law. It's like, okay, then prosecute, then do something. Laws don't fucking matter unless there is somebody there to uphold them. And many laws are dehumanizing in the first place. So who's going to protect us except us? Which is what's going on in Minneapolis. And power to those people. All my support goes to every Minneapolitan. What's the word for someone that lives in Minneapolis? Minneapolisian? That doesn't sound right. What do you call Minnesotan? Well, that's for the state, though. What do you call a person who lives in Minneapolis? Minneapolitan. That sucks. Minneapolitan? Where do I put the emphasis? Minneapolitan. That's a brutal... you got to figure that out, Minneapolis. Minneapolitan. Minneapolitan. I don't like the way that sounds. How many more times can I say this before everyone clicks off this video or stops listening? Minneapolite? That feels better. Anyway, so yeah, ICE is basically the U.S.'s version of the brown shirts at this point. And you know what comes next? Our version of the SS. An even more militarized and actually orderly secret police. that'll carry out all of this horrible, horrible shit. So yeah, I just, it's really, really hard to want to do anything at all when every video I see on Threads or Twitter or Instagram or TikTok is people protesting. Who was that fucking guy? Jake Lang, was that his name? Who went out there and was like calling for people to be lynched and then got his ass handed to him. Like dudes like that going out there, looking for a response like this. Like this is, I feel like a lot of people kind of get a little too excited when a guy like Jake Lang shows up at an anti-ICE protest and then like gets put in his place, without realizing that like he went there looking for this to happen. Like he was an instigator in this scenario, right? He knew that people would react the way they did. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't have reacted that way. That is not at all what I'm saying. I'm just saying that we really need to pay attention to why these people do this shit. They're inciting violence. Jake Lang is in the wrong in every way. And it's great that people push back and threw piss or whatever at him. There's that photo where he's getting jizzed on by somebody in the crowd. But like, he did this on purpose. He wanted this reaction. It's bait. And I don't know, it brings up a strange, I don't know if it's philosophical thing about these guys, but it's like, how do you handle people like the Jake Langs or the Nick Shirleys of this world, without becoming an excuse for more incitement and more of an excuse for, like, say, the administration to come down even harder, right? Because that's ultimately like, you know, people have been saying for a long time that Minneapolis is a testing ground. It's like, well, I don't know about that. We've been testing these kinds of tactics on other countries for many, many decades. So, but, you know, saying that the administration is sending DHS or sending like the National Guard like they did to LA. They want people to burn a bunch of Waymos and incite enough violence against the state in order to bring in more of the state to control and oppress a population, right? It's people are always saying like, oh, their DHS is doing this so that when the people fight back, he can incite the Insurrection Act, right? And it's like, yeah, probably. But like, that's the conundrum, right? Is how do we voice our disapproval and protest this administration and the kidnappings and the murders in a way that sort of rides that line between, well, don't go too far because we don't want to know what comes down the pipeline if we actually lynched Jake Lang. But there's also that thing of like, fuck it, dude. Fuck these people. We outnumber them 5-1 or whatever, you know, like, I don't know. So it's, I don't know. It's just like that stuff that's been on my mind. Like, I'm not saying I'm married to any of these things that I'm saying. It's just thoughts that I've been having about like, how do we do this in a way that doesn't lead to more harm, which that might be an idealistic, ignorant thing to say. I'm a privileged white guy. I have no idea. I'm not on the streets. dealing with this shit. I'm not in Minneapolis. But it's just, when you're kind of constantly, that stuff is kind of constantly on your mind. You want to play video games all day and to a certain extent tune out. Like I do what I can. And I know no one is expecting anything of me. I don't think. I don't know. Maybe some of my subscribers are, and maybe I've set myself up to be in a place where there is an expectation. And like, I think I've always spoken out about this stuff and been maybe more than pretty vocal about where I stand politically and what I believe. But I also know I'm still like I'm an idiot, right? My privilege has protected me from really experiencing anything. Which I think is like why it's hard for me to see all this stuff happening, and process it. But I think if I didn't say anything after saying so much, I think it would disappoint myself, right? I would be disappointed in myself if I didn't sit here and turn this camera on and start talking about this stuff. Just as much, I'm sure it would disappoint a lot of the people that are subscribed to me or follow me on Instagram or whatever. Like, if also though, I am preparing myself because I live in Oakland now. I lived in San Francisco, which is very much more protected. Although when I was living in San Francisco, I did see on my way to my day job, right before I moved out of here, I did see ICE in San Francisco. I have yet to see ICE in Oakland. I know that's cross your fingers. It's coming though. But like I live in a place that is a majority black population now. And as we've noticed, the administration, DHS, is sending these DHS goons and ICE stormtroopers to cities with majority black and brown populations. So I've been doing my part. Probably shouldn't use that phrase because that's what the Nazis in Starship Troopers say. The context is a little weird there, saying I'm doing my part, but I am doing my part. Because I haven't seen a lot of protests. This is another thing I want to get into at some point too. Where the fuck are people learning about protests, man? I tried to look up like last weekend, like where there were protests happening or what resistance mobilization groups exist. And it's just like so saturated, but like, I don't know which ones are fucking legit anymore. Like I saw that there was going to be a protest at a pedestrian bridge in Berkeley on Threads, some random fucking user. And I went through the comments trying to find out who is putting it on, what the fuck the time was. No information. Just, hey, we're going to be at this place. I don't even think it was we're going to be at this place. It was the date they were posting the day before they were there. Like photos and videos from the previous day. And I was like, is somebody going to say in there when they're doing this again? I would like to fucking go. Could not for the fucking life of me figure out where it was or what bridge they were even at. And I was just like, where do I go to find this information? I am not embedded in the community like a lot of the people that do put these things on have been for decades and probably have family members that have been doing it for even longer, right? Like I'm a newbie. I'm a new guy. Hey guys, I'm here for my training. Where do I sign up to fight fascism? I don't know where the fuck. Where's the comment box? You know what I mean? Like that's a fucking problem. I feel like it was more organized in the 60s during the civil rights movement. Like, how is that possible? We have this incredible technology. I can find out anything I want online, except where and when to protest. I mean, on top of that, it's that thing of who's a grifter? Like, how many times? Time and time again, we've seen it. Somebody puts together some sort of, independent content creator, news outlet, convention or gathering or something. And it turns out they're a fucking scammer. Like, I can't trust, even if people told me the group that's putting it on, how do I know that if they accept donations or charity or whatever the fuck, or they're doing this, that, and the other, is it legit? I mean, I've been seeing all these videos of like the Black Panther Party or the new Black Panther Party showing up, talking about going out, protecting everybody, putting a hole the size of a window through an ICE agent if they roll up on them. And that's all well and good. But I've also seen a couple of tweets about those people being like, yeah, this guy is kind of sketchy and not even a part of the original Black Panthers or stands for the same thing. So it's shit like that just feels like, is this fucking legit, or is this a goddamn psyop? Is this a Fed embedding themselves in the movement? Because that's something we have to constantly be on the lookout for. I mean, there was literally just a video I saw today. I'll put it in the video if I can find it, of a guy who had embedded himself in a group of protesters in Minneapolis. And when he was found out, they kind of started roughing him up until a big white van showed up, pulled the guy out of the crowd, and drove off with him. It's like, that is a real thing that is happening, and we have to be aware that that's the real shit. But it's also one of the things that drives people who are like kind of new to this movement to be like, is this fucking legit? Like, who do I trust? I mean, I've even gotten pushback from like, when I was living in San Francisco, I took a photo of like, there were marches all the time in downtown where I worked, right outside the store that I worked at. And every other week, I mean, closer to, 9 months ago, it was like every other day there was a protest, a giant march going down the street. And there were some that were like the DSA or PSL. And I remember I took photos. I don't know which one at this point because it's been a minute. And I was just taking photos of people because I think that's good shit you should share, that like, hey, people are out there making their voices heard, protesting this regime. And I got like at least one comment that was like, oh, you support that group? And it's like, what? Dude, I don't know. I just see people with signs that say, fuck Trump, fuck ICE, these anti-Israel or anti-Zionist type shit. And I'm just like, I want to share that stuff because it's shit that's happening and I think it's important. And for people to get in the comments to be like, actually, the DSA is, I don't know, dude. Go easy, man. Go watch Hassan for that shit. If you want like a real, somebody who knows what the fuck they're talking about when it comes to political groups and theory and activism, I'm the new guy doing the bare fucking minimum. So give me a break. Anyway, what group do I join? I start the White Panthers up again? But anyway, so that's my gripe with just like finding a place that like I know, and I know why there's probably not so much of that information being shared online, because you don't want the government to fucking know in some of these instances, right? And fucking getting tracked, and it's just everything is fucked. So leave your comments down below for, Oakland Bay Area groups that are legit and not, some fucking psyop that have been infiltrated by the feds. But besides that, the other thing that I've been doing, and I posted this on my Instagram, which is a great plug for me to say, go follow me on Instagram for you to see all the stuff that I'm promoting and talking about and sharing and doing at Harlan Spinks, is I went and did some basic handgun training. And there's another thing I guess I want to talk about when it comes to this stuff, this kind of mobilization or preparedness, right? I am not a prepper by any means. I'm not a prepper like typically what comes to mind when you think prepper. I like to be prepared. for sure. Like, even when Donald Trump, during the election last year, you see all this stuff about people talking about, oh, the economy, or this is their plan for this, for agriculture. Things are going to get expensive, blah, blah, blah. This could be the fucking worst thing since Black Friday. And so what I did is I bought 90 days of dehydrated, freeze-dried food stores just in case. Spent like $1,000 on 90 days of food or something. And I wanted just in case. I didn't know, right? I think that's a pretty pragmatic thing to do. I've also, been putting together an actual decent med kit with gauze and bandages and suture staple guns and what else is in there? Shears, that I eventually want to work up to fucking, knee pads and gas mask and like a plate carrier. Like because I don't think in this, like, dude, you would have asked me this 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I would have been like, what? That's crazy. But now it feels like a necessity. So, on top of all that, I went and did some basic handgun training. It was like an hour and a half class. Shot a Glock 19. And I got a bullseye. I'm pretty good at it. But what I'm going to do next is I'm going to buy a fucking gun. And normally, again, like a year or two ago, I was probably still pretty on the fence about gun ownership. Guns have always terrified me. The idea that this thing I can hold in my hand could potentially take the life of another person. Holy fucking shit. Insane. But at the same time, I'm an 80s baby, right? I was born in 86. I grew up on Arnold Schwarzenegger movies and fucking Steven Seagal movies. Guns are cool. A little bit. They're fun to hold. They are fun to shoot up to a point. At a certain point, you get kind of bored with it. But it's also that thing for me where it's not so much the instructor that I got wasn't like an ex-Marine or anything like that. They were a sport shooter person, like a tournament type shooter. I don't give a fuck about that. I just don't. What's more interesting to me in terms of firearms and any kind of militaria type shit are like the tactics and the strategy, the discipline that it takes to get good at and respecting the strategy and the firearms, the tools themselves. I find that to be much more interesting. Why you hold a gun this way versus that way. How do you clear a room? What are things you should always be looking for in a potential combat scenario, right? And I know there are people that are like, this is crazy. What is this guy talking about? Or that are like, why is Harland, of all people, never would have thought I'd hear him talk like this. But it's like a necessary evil. And I think if I'm going to have the values and beliefs that I have when it comes to protesting and pushing back against a fascist regime in this country, you got to know how to use a fucking gun. If any leftist especially is out there being like, guns are actually bad. Yeah, they are. But I'm being forced to use the tools of my enemy. Right? I want to know, at the minimum at this point, if ICE shows up or if there is some kind of altercation. And even outside of whether it's an official government of power, somebody sanctioned by the government to do violence, even if it's just some racist dipshit, and they pull a gun or they drop it or they are disarmed, I know how to dismantle the fucking thing. Bare minimum, that's what I would love to know how to do effectively and quickly, right? That's the defensive stuff. I don't want to pull a gun and go down the street and shoot somebody. That's not what I'm doing. YouTube, that's not what I'm talking about doing. I am not advocating any kind of violence. I don't like violence. I absolutely don't. But when push comes to shove, sometimes it might be necessary. If you're getting kidnapped by a masked goon, violence is kind of the only answer. So I've taken it upon myself to learn how to handle a firearm. And I was really hoping at the end of the session, I was like, so what do you recommend? Like, if I want to do like the next stage of, firearm safety or classes or anything like that, I was like, what do you have somebody that you recommend? Like, or anything like that? And she was basically like, go buy a gun and shoot it a bunch. I was like, oh, okay, guess I'm buying a gun. I was really hoping I could take some more classes to get a little bit more comfortable. It seems kind of crazy to take one basic handgun safety course and then be told, go buy one. I feel like there should be like something in between that. So I'm going to go out to Vallejo. There's apparently a gun store. I'm going to look at a Glock. I'm going to look at something a little smaller. I think my dad, who, by the way, I don't know how many of you, how often I've talked about this or how many people on this channel who listen to me know this, but my dad is a police officer, which might be a whole other topic of conversation on this podcast because, and I know there's going to be a lot of people that say, well, he's a bad person. And him being a cop, yes, bad. ACAB for life. But he is probably one of the very, very few good cops. He hates this administration. He hates the way policing functions in this country. And he has done everything in his 40-year career to improve it and make it better. And I get the probable contradiction in what I was talking about Abolish ICE, extending to abolish police. But he's been doing it since the fucking 80s. And he did it for genuine good reasons. He always tells me the story that when he realized he knew I wanted to go into law enforcement was when he was a kid, he saw a bully pushing other kids off the swing set and he stepped in and stopped them. And he's always said, I joined the police. I became a police officer to stop bullies. He's very Captain Rogers about it. I don't like bullies type shit. Like that's where he's coming from. He's never discharged his firearm. He's pulled it on a few people. But he's always focused on community policing, which like that's, again, there's a whole other fucking conversation that I am not probably equipped to even talk about. Regardless, I'm getting way off topic, I feel like at this point. He's one of the very few police officers who I would trust any person to have an interaction with. Because when we talk, we'll talk multiple times a week, and it's always about politics and what the fuck is going on. And every time it's basically the same. I mean, we basically repeat ourselves back and forth to each other, being like, this is fucking bullshit. He's a fascist, right? Like, he is a socialist. I don't know that he would call himself that, but he is a fucking socialist. And it's like, dude, also, like, you look back in the 80s when he started to be, he started a career. Careers were much different back then, right? Careers like I feel like my parents had like the quintessential, like when you think of like, what do your parents do? It was like, she was a nurse, he was a cop. Like it might have been like might as well have been secretary and firefighter or lawyer and teacher. Like those were the 6 jobs that existed in the 80s. So I'm not going to sit here and criticize or judge too much his choice of profession when that was kind of what was expected of you, right? Anyway. So I was talking to him about obviously shooting guns, and I was like, hey, a Glock feels kind of fucking big. Not that I need or would ever go through the hassle of getting a concealed carry permit here in California, because it's thousands of dollars and an absolute fucking nightmare to do, which is good. But getting a smaller gun that I could conceal if fucking ICE invades Oakland, right? Regardless of if I have a permit, I'm going to take that fucking thing with me. So having something that was smaller, I was like, do you have any recommendations? Like, what would you suggest for a first-time gun owner to get? And he was like, probably a PPK. Get James Bond's gun. It's small. It holds 7 rounds. It's easy to conceal. It's typically like if like a secondary firearm or sidearm for police officers is usually a PPK or a like 38 special that you can put in an ankle holster or whatever, or like a small shoulder sling situation. Because a Glock is big, right? 9mm rounds are not nothing. And honestly, the PPK, for anybody that doesn't know and has never fired a gun, this might be useful information. A PPK uses 380 rounds, which are they're called short 9mm rounds. Got a short 9 over here. That's what they called me in the locker room. Short 9. They're called short 9 because they're literally just shorter. And you can get, like, they don't have as high a grain count, but that's fine if you get a fucking hollow points, you know, blow somebody's fucking back out. Not like that. So I'm thinking about getting one of those, but I got to feel it in my hand. I want to know if it feels too small, too dainty, right? Because that could be weird. So yeah, I went and shot a gun, and I'm going to buy a gun at some point. I'm not going to tell you when I buy a gun. I probably will. Who am I kidding? It's all content. Yeah, so these are the things that I'm like preparing for and want to know how to use, because I feel like that's a responsible thing to do as an American citizen at this point. If you want to really push back against what's happening to all of your immigrant friends and all of your trans friends and all of your gay and queer and black friends, is know how to shoot a gun and know the basics of a med kit, and yeah, I don't know. Set yourself up. I mean, dude, it's just like, it's turning all of us into, you know, fucking prepper weirdos that might have to harbor enemies of the state. Anyway, I mean, this has just been a big episode of me basically being like, fuck ICE. And I didn't have anything planned straight up. I mean, I pulled up threads just to see if there was anything that popped up. Well, I guess on top of the whole preparedness thing, buying a gun, buying food, buying medical supplies and shit like that, and trying to educate myself on how to use this stuff and be a good gun owner and be a safe, responsible leftist, is the other reason. Like, it's not just against DHS, right? It's not just that they exist and that they're out there and they're coming to a town near you. It's also the fact that there is no opposition party that's going to stop them. Chuck Schumer is a useless, worthless old fuck. Cory Booker needs to walk into the ocean. If they didn't exist, things would either be exactly the same or better. I mean, Chuck Schumer's fucking at AIPAC or whatever the fuck. None of them have said or endorsed the idea of abolishing ICE. I would go a step further and say, destroy ICE. Destroy it. Fuck it. Get it the fuck out. It does not need to exist. It is a product of 9/11. It is not a long institution. Anybody saying like, we can't just destroy a whole or abolish an entire department. Yes, you can. You know why? Because you can just create a whole fucking, why would it not go the other way? There is no opposition party. I mean, dude, Zoran has done more in like 2 days or 2 weeks, however long it's been, 2 weeks of being in office in New York than any other Democratic politician has done in decades. So this shit can be done. It can be. There is proof that exists right fucking now. And these fucking cowards who want to protect their own, this is why people always talk about like, you know, like scratch a liberal and a fascist bleeds type shit. Like the problem is capitalism. The problem is liberals think that capitalism could be improved from the inside out, that we can just reform it and it'll start working again good. Leftists, anybody with a functioning brain, understand that capitalism right now, it's working exactly as intended. These people say that it's broken so that they have some foothold to continue to get elected into office to make change. When they don't actually make any change, they just benefit from capitalism as it stands now. They are lying to you in a different way as conservatives and fascists are lying to you. They know that capitalism in its current form is functioning exactly as intended, but they're not going to tell you that because then it proves that they're benefiting from the system. So they're going to sell you this idea that it's broken and only Chuck Schumer can fix it. No. It's all a platform to get fucking reelected. The system works fine. It works exactly as intended. It just only works, it only benefits a small percentage. It works from the exploitation of all of us. Now, is any of that correct as a guy that doesn't read fucking political theory? I don't know. Correct me in the comments. Send me a letter. Send me a hate email that I won't read. The other thing I guess we should do is let's see if anybody sent in any submissions, questions, content, advice. Oh, look at that. We have got some stuff. Thank you, everybody, for sending in questions. I really appreciate it. I did not pre-read these, so let's just see. Okay, so there's actually quite a few questions in here that I won't get to in this episode because there's multifaceted, which is great. I appreciate everybody that submitted a question. I will get to it eventually. I'll probably just do 2 right now. The 2 that kind of popped out at me is from Anonymous. They say they are 22-year-old female. Not your target audience, I realize. It was for a minute. Anyway, they say, I am coming up on what will hopefully be my last semester of college, and I was personally requested to be a teaching assistant for a film course that deals with my main topic of study. The main expectations for me are to lead in class discussions surrounding the assigned films. I love film, but I don't personally participate in discourse, so I'm a little nervous about this responsibility. Do you have any advice or thoughts on how I can guide discussions to stay productive? What do you think constitutes a good conversation? You mentioned you were working on a script for film media criticism. Is there anything I should keep in mind both for in-class discussion, but also while I'm watching the assigned works myself? So let's break this down. Okay. I don't personally participate in discourse. Well, I mean, when it comes to discourse, I know a lot of this depends on what is going on with my hair. It looks like I've got a giant Ace Ventura hair. I'm sorry. I'm getting distracted. I might have ADHD too. I should probably bring that up with my therapist. Some of this depends on personality, right? Like, I have always been a pretty opinionated person. Now, have those opinions always been right? But I've also really enjoyed, some of my favorite classes were the film classes that I took, because I also love film. I love all kinds of film. I've probably talked about Red Letter Media on here. My favorite fucking YouTube show is Best of the Worst. I will just put it on and let it play in the background. I would say you can learn a lot from sort of other people's the discourse from other people. Red Letter Media, honestly, has been a huge source of education, film education, and it's really accessible. Now, does their humor resonate with everybody? No, and I get it. They're a bunch of old drunkards, Midwest drunkards. It's not going to be for everybody. But if you can find a place like that, because it's like, I don't always agree. It's not like I've taken everything that they've said and just fucking copy pasted it onto my own opinions. There are things I do not agree with them about, or things that they say about movies that in terms of opinion. Now, they have a lot of technical knowledge because they both, Mike and Jay both went to film school. And so there's technical knowledge and theory knowledge that can be gained from just listening to people talk. And that's how I personally learn the best, is hearing other people talk about it rather than fucking flipping through a book. It feels like reading a manual for a TV. Like, I just can't learn that way. I have to see. I mean, that's why this fucking podcast is called Visual Learner. It means something for anyone curious. So like, in terms of like participating or getting used to participating in discourse, is to listen to other people have discourse. Do you have any advice or thoughts on how I can guide discussions to stay productive? I mean, my advice, I guess, if you're going to try, I mean, that's a skill that you have to kind of build up to. You're not going to be great at it initially. I mean, I think this maybe just applies to any social interaction in general, is ask questions. People love to talk. Most people want to be heard, and they also have an opinion to give. Again, whether it's right or wrong, good or bad, people generally want to be asked questions. So asking questions, getting into the headspace of, I mean, when you're talking about film, I feel like there's like an endless amount of things that you can talk about, whether it is theory or the technical aspects, or the more symbolic things of, why was this in the frame? Why did they choose to hold on this shot? Why, because everything in a movie means something, in a good movie. Good directors fill the screen with things intentionally. Whatever is there on purpose. However long a cut is, it lingered, or it was cut on purpose, right? Watch every frame of painting video to get ideas. That's honestly, I would start right there. Start with the David Fincher video. I think it's titled "And the Other Way is Wrong." Brother, masterclass. And they're all really digestible. 7 to 12 minutes long. Watch every one of Tony's videos. They fucking rule. What do you think constitutes a good conversation? I mean, that's subjective. Again, with film, I feel like most things, I don't think that having a good conversation about film is hard to do, right? I have a friend, one of my best friends, and we talk about movies all the time. And we have very different, I did 2 videos with him. I don't know if they're privated or not anymore. Where we talked about movies, and we have very different tastes. So we always have good conversations, and I don't always agree with him. You know who you are. He's probably not watching this. So, is there anything I should keep in mind for in class discussions, but also while I'm watching the assigned works myself? I mean, all of the stuff I'm kind of talking about is, I think a good entryway is looking at a film from a technical aspect, because I think that opens kind of the door to the more symbolic, deeper aspects of a film, how it was shot and what does that mean about the narrative and the characters themselves, how they're framed, again, how the editing, or how the character is changed in editing. So much of it depends on what the assigned works are, because there will be movies that you are assigned in a film class that you would never watch, and those can be kind of difficult. But if you have any kind of imagination, it's easy. Film, again, is a very subjective, any art form is a very subjective media, right? So you could pull some shit right out of your ass and apply it to film, and it will probably work. You might need to stretch it a little bit. It might be grasping at straws, but I think it's a pretty easy art form to pull discussion ideas, right? Also, like any access to behind the scenes, to interviews with the filmmakers, even other reviews, like what did people say? Like, because you might not agree with it, but it might spark some ideas. It might get the ball rolling a little bit, at least. I'm always curious what smarter people have to say about art before I start to form my own opinion. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I hope that helped. I hope that answered one of those questions. Anonymous, appreciate it. This is another one that's a reference to, and I did see your comment to my last podcast episode about the Vanity Fair photos, about photography. Zachary, I'm talking to you now, if you're watching. They said, I put this as a comment on the Vanity Fair Visual Learner episode. I did see it, and I did make a mental note of it that I did want to talk about it, but I'm glad that, and then I forgot because it's been 2 fucking weeks. So I'm glad that you sent it here. I did actually want to address this because I think it's, again, it's photography. It's something I really care about. They say, I got an older SLR last year and I've been struggling to learn how to use it effectively. First of all, yeah, pretty par for the course. It's going to take some trial and error. Can you suggest any resources for learning photography? Like, I know how the camera functions, but I don't understand generally how to achieve good photos. So there, I'm wondering if you mean basic, like exposure, good, or like compositionally good. Because compositionally, that's going to be something you develop yourself. It's your eye, right? Everybody has a different eye. They have a different style. They have different interests. I remember when I picked up a camera, I think every photographer kind of goes through this thing, is understanding like how your aperture affects your shutter speed and the ISO, and why is a 1.8 aperture the widest, even though it's the smallest number, and a 22 aperture is the smallest aperture, but a bigger number. It seems backwards. Like, if you're talking about a technical aspect of that on making your photos good, in terms of like correctly exposing them or whatever, that's easy. There are resources like diagrams that I think help you understand that stuff pretty well. For anybody who is interested and doesn't, I don't know, or I'll just fucking explain it, right? So aperture, the smaller the number, the bigger the opening in the front of the camera, which is where the aperture is in a lens, right? And it closes like this every time, or I guess it's closed, and every time you take a photo, it opens, and then it closes again. Well, actually, on modern cameras, that's how it works. On old film cameras, the aperture is, you set it and it's just always open. It's changed by a ring, right? So it's always open, and then there's a shutter release and there's a little mirrored window. on a hinge that's what opens and closes. On modern cameras, the aperture and the shutter function simultaneously. So the smaller the number, which is usually for most cameras is 2.8 or 3.5 is the widest the aperture will get. And then it goes up to like 4.5 and 6.7 and like 11 and then 22. I don't know the exact, I can't remember all the numbers for each aperture setting. But the bigger the number, the smaller the opening. So less light is entering and exposing the film or the sensor, right? So what that means is typically less light means you need the shutter to remain open longer in order to expose it properly, right? So, but the bigger the aperture, the more light is being exposed on the sensor or the film. So the faster the shutter needs to be in order to not overexpose it. So rather than it would be right? So that's the relationship between those. Now, ISO is the photosensitivity metric of the film or of the sensor. And all that really is, on film, it is literally just a measurement of the size of the crystal grain that is in the emulsion of the film. So bigger grain, 1600 ISO, 3200 ISO would be bigger grains, bigger crystal grains, which means more surface area, which means more sensitive to light. 200, 100 ISO would be much smaller crystalline grains, less sensitive to light. The trade-off there is higher ISO number, bigger grain, right? The more grainy the photo will actually be. So you will physically start to be able to see the grain in like a 16 or 3200 ISO film. 100, 200, much smaller, finer, more clear resulting image because those crystals are just smaller. Those are like the ISOs usually used for like portrait photography, studio photography, things like that. 16, 3200, that's going to be for like action, for like sports photography and stuff. So those, and then there's those three things, those three factors kind of, finding the interplay between them. I mean, depending on how old your camera is, it could be a fully manual camera, but it might have, when you plug in the film rolls of film have a barcode that most cameras, I don't know, after I don't know when they started doing that, probably the 90s. The barcode will actually be read in the camera, and the camera will automatically know what ISO, and it will set it for you automatically. And if you want to fuck with it and do overexposed or underexposed, you can bracket it, and there's a little, it's this symbol. Can you see this? Oh shit, I keep hitting my fucking microphone. I have a symbol, the bracket symbol. It's trying to focus on my head still. It's a +/- that is your bracket that you can manually kind of adjust, stop up or down, which is just more lingo. So if you mean like technically, like that's basically all you need to know in terms of like exposing your film properly. Most cameras will have a light meter, and they will tell you if you're overexposed or underexposed. If it's fully manual and there's like nothing, that's just a lot of trial and error. But composition-wise, I know I've gotten way off topic. Composition-wise, that's just from figuring out what kind of framing you like. I mean, there's theory out there, photo theory on like, rule of thirds, leading lines, objects in repetition, stuff like that. I mean, I picked up a camera before I took any kind of film classes. So I think I developed my eye kind of in a vacuum. I still don't know like the every top photographer, I know a few that I like. I know Eggleston. I think he's later, when I did start to learn about photographers, realized that he was probably a big inspiration for me. I like his documentation of the mundane, the colors that he's able to get out of his photos. And then Vivian Maier for black and whites. There's a Chinese photographer named Fan Ho. I really, really love how he creates shape and his use of negative space in a lot of his photography. So, but I mean, developing it like that, you kind of have to figure out what you like and what you don't like. I mean, finding shapes is a really, I think, kind of an easy way to create an interesting composition. And, not doing what the knee-jerk thing, I think what if you like, how do I explain this? If there's a subject or something you want to photograph, whatever your first inclination is to capture it, don't do that. Do something different, right? You don't always have to point and shoot. You can point and use it as a viewfinder to compose it within the lens, right? Find a different angle. Kneel, crouch, get up high, shoot through things. I really like to shoot through foliage or through another object. I think that creates a certain striking kind of depth that it's just, I mean, it's, again, I think it's kind of a shorthand to do that. It's easy to create that depth. So there's little things that you can do, but it's really just developing your eye, developing your sense of composition that just comes from trial and error. It is an SLR, so it is film. I assume it's film. Yeah, it's an older SLR. So the thing with this is just the development costs. I mean, you can get SLRs for pretty cheap, but getting that film developed can start to be, I mean, what I would also say, if you start to develop the film, just get the negatives developed and have them scan them. Don't do fucking prints. Don't have them print out all 24 or 36 frames. Just get the negatives and have them scan them. They don't even need to be crazy high quality scans like TIFF files. Like a PNG is fine. Once you get up to like 20 megabytes per photo, that's ridiculous. You don't need to don't go for the advanced printing or scanning. Just get the basic scanning, right? You can always get certain photos specifically from the negatives scanned again. Don't pay for advanced photo scanning shit. It's not worth it. Honestly, if you have it would probably be more cost effective to buy a scanner yourself and do that and just have them develop the negatives and then literally invert the negative in whatever photo editing program you have. You can probably fucking do it. I mean, there's a free Photoshop online, Photopea. Use that. So there are ways to do this relatively affordable. I hope that answered your question. And they have a side question. Not getting fooled again. I would love to hear about what happened here that you don't accept links in these. Oh, that was more of a joke. That was just a joke. I've never been. Am I too sincere sometimes on here? All right, those are the questions. Thank you so much for sticking around and listening. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. I have a Patreon, patreon.com/HarlandSpinks. I mentioned already my Instagram @HarlandSpinks. And since we're talking about photos again, I have a website, harlandspinks.com. You can go look at my photography that I've done there. I guess until next time, I hope everyone is staying safe and well and managing their own mental and emotional health during these topsy-turvy times. My love and sympathies and support and thoughts and prayers go out to everybody who is affected by this fascist regime. So this is pretty cool. Not at all. All right. Bye. I love you.